Time. The one force no one can escape. It moves forward, unrelenting, untouchable, and infinite. But what if someone could harness it? What if someone could hold time in their hands, shape it, and make it a symbol of prestige, power, and perfection? This is the story of Rolex, the timekeeper of kings, conquerors, and legends. But Rolex didn't begin with royalty. It began with one man, a dreamer, a visionary, a 24-year-old German with nothing more than ambition in his suitcase and precision in his heart. The year was 1905. The world stood on the edge of modernity. Electricity was spreading. The first automobiles rumbled through cobbled streets. And Hans Wilsdorf was about to change everything. In London, Hans founded a small company with his brother-in-law Alfred Davis. Their mission? To assemble reliable wristwatches using Swiss movements. But at the time, wristwatches were dismissed as feminine, fragile, and inaccurate. Real men carried pocket watches, bulky, ornate, and proudly tucked into waistcoats. Hans didn't care. He believed in wristwatches. He believed in accuracy. He believed in beauty. And he believed in branding. So, in 1908, the name Rolex was born. Short, strong, easy to pronounce in every language, and destined for immortality. By 1910, Rolex sent a wristwatch to the School of Horology in Switzerland, and the impossible happened. It became the first wristwatch in the world to receive a Swiss certificate of chronometric precision. That was only the beginning. For years later, the Kew Observatory in England awarded Rolex a Class A Precision Certificate, an honor previously reserved only for marine chronometers. The wristwatch had arrived, and it had arrived wearing a crown. But Hans Wilsdorf wasn't done. In 1919, amid post-war uncertainty, Rolex moved its headquarters to Geneva, Switzerland, the beating heart of horological craftsmanship. There, Rolex would become legend. In 1926, the world saw something impossible, a wristwatch that was completely waterproof and dustproof. They called it the Rolex Oyster. It was the first of its kind, a hermetically sealed case, a symbol of resilience. But how do you convince the world that a watch can defy water? Simple. You strap it to the wrist of Mercedes Gleitze, a young British swimmer, as she crosses the English Channel. 10 hours. Frigid waters. Roaring waves. The watch survived. It ticked unwavering. The oyster was a triumph. But Wilsdorf knew something even greater: marketing. He bought front-page ads in London newspapers the very next day. The wonder watch that defies the elements. Rolex wasn't just selling watches. It was selling achievement. As the 1930s and 40s dawned, Rolex wasn't just a brand, it was a badge. Rolex watches found their way onto the wrists of pilots, mountaineers, and explorers. In 1933, they flew over Mount Everest. In 1935, they sat on the wrist of Sir Malcolm Campbell as he broke the land speed record at over 300 miles per hour. But then came the darkness. World War II. Wilsdorf saw his watches taken by prisoners of war, confiscated by enemy captors. He responded not with anger, but with honor. He replaced their Rolex watches, free of charge. Why? Because Rolex was more than a timekeeper. It was a symbol of dignity, resistance, and hope. Rolex broke new ground, literally and figuratively. As Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay became the first humans to summit Mount Everest, they wore Rolex. That same year, Rolex introduced the Submariner, the first wristwatch water-resistant to 100 meters. Sleek, rugged, revolutionary. Then came the GMT Master in 1955, crafted for Pan Am pilots to track 2 time zones. The Day-Date in 1956, nicknamed the President for adorning the wrists of world leaders. Every model became an icon, and every model whispered the same message. This isn't just a watch. This is who you are. As the 20th century marched forward, Rolex infiltrated culture at every level. It sparkled on the wrist of Paul Newman, whose Daytona became a multi-million-dollar legend. It ticked on the arm of Steve McQueen, the king of cool. It swam with James Bond, emerging from the sea with danger on his breath and a Rolex Submariner on his wrist. Even hip-hop royalty embraced the crown. The crown had crossed over, from high society to street legends, from boardrooms to battlefields. Rolex was everywhere. But what is it that makes Rolex eternal? Is it the design? Meticulous, understated, engineered for permanence. Is it the craftsmanship? Every Rolex takes nearly a year to make. Hand-assembled, master-tested, water pressure defied. Is it the movement? Certified superlative chronometers. CUSC tested, cased, then tested again. Accuracy within -2/+2 seconds per day. Or is it the philosophy? Rolex doesn't follow trends. It doesn't chase hype. It creates legacy. You'll never see Rolex sponsor a celebrity because Rolex isn't about the person. It's about the pursuit, the climb, the quiet power of those who don't shout, but simply achieve. Rolex is still privately owned. Its profits poured back into science, arts, and humanity through the Rolex Foundation. They fund ocean explorers. They support environmental conservation. They nurture young leaders and innovation. Because to Rolex, time isn't just a measurement. It's a responsibility. In a world obsessed with speed, Rolex stands for patience. In a culture chasing fame, Rolex rewards discipline. No shortcuts, no compromises, just excellence. Today, in an age of smartwatches and disposable tech, Rolex remains a titan. The wait list for a stainless steel Submariner? Years. A vintage Daytona? Over $2 million at auction. Rolex isn't depreciating. It's appreciating. In value, in respect, in mystique. From Wimbledon to Formula One, from the Oscars to the ocean floor, the crown remains untouched. When you wear a Rolex, you wear more than a watch. You wear a century of legacy, a symbol of arrival, a promise that you respect time and time respects you.